Scarers Anonymous contains intense and graphic scenes that may frighten certain individuals, such as children, persons with histories of mental illness, and homeschoolers. This podcast may feature topics such as blood, death, ghosts, and immature fart jokes. Proceed with extreme caution if you suffer from medical conditions such as heart problems, seizures, loss of bowel control, or getting offended by everything. And most importantly, don't touch the monsters.
Welcome to the Scarers Anonymous podcast with me, Andy Moore. I've been a scare actor since 2002. I've worked everything from home haunts in my parents' backyard to medium-sized haunts in Colorado and Nebraska to the one that started it all, Knott's Scary Farm. For the last few years, I have also been a manager, designer, and builder at Roca Scary Farm near Lincoln, Nebraska. Over the last couple decades, I have met many interesting people and have heard and told so many great stories, all related to scaring. This podcast was created to relay those stories on to fellow scare actors, fans of haunted attractions, or anybody that just wants a good laugh at someone else's expense. On today's podcast episode of Scarers Anonymous, my guest is my brother, Jeffrey Moore.
Hey.
And we have with us also Paul Bilson.
3 in a row.
Jeffrey is a former haunt monster, aka Knott's Berry Farm monster. He has also designed some home haunts at our parents' house. Still does it every year. And he's also an entertainment producer. So, Jeff, I'd like for you to give a kind of a background of where you've worked at Haunt, what you've done at Haunt, what you've done at your parents' house, as well as your productions that you've worked on or are working on.
Well, I've always enjoyed entertaining, and for Halloween, it mostly started with just costumes for school or whatever. I wasn't really exposed to too many haunted attractions until I came to Haunt and finally saw you guys all working there, and you guys got me totally stoked on it, and so I started doing my own thing at home. Oh, actually, the first couple of years you were around, and so we made it like a really small maze, and then for the next 8 or 10 years, I don't even know how many years it's been, they just got bigger and better every year, and now, I mean, neighbors come around, and
you were what I would call a kind of late to the party.
Yeah, Jeff's 8 years younger than I am.
Well, but also you were kind of like late to the party because typically, like at Knott's Scary Farm, you have to be 18 or have a high school diploma, and be graduated essentially to work. You could do home haunts obviously at any age, but you didn't start doing it until what? You were 23 almost, or 20?
I don't really know why. If I had things going on or work that was interfering, or maybe I just didn't feel like I knew enough people.
Maybe you liked being a guest more.
Yeah,
because that was kind of my story, where it was I enjoyed being a guest so much that I never thought about it, but until I saw you guys doing it, Andy doing it, I was like, oh man, this looks like fun. I want to try it.
Yeah. And man, it was.
Yeah.
I think my first year I got to work with you a little bit. Was that when you were in Scare Force?
Scare Force, yeah.
That was awesome.
In Slaughterhouse.
Yeah. So, I mean, we
did started after Redbeards.
Yeah.
Slaughterhouse was first, okay.
Yeah, I think it was the second year of Slaughterhouse.
I think so.
Where else did you work at Haunt?
I'm actually wearing my Paranormal Inc. shirt from Knott's Berry Farm.
First year of Paranormal.
Yeah. I ended up taking a few years off to work on personal projects, and I missed it so much I wanted to go back, and I was lucky enough to get a spot in one of the new badass attractions that year, which was Paranormal Inc., and it was super dope. Unfortunately, I had to quit halfway through because I had film projects going on. So.
And that was the last time you worked at Haunt, right?
Yeah, correct. Since then, the last couple of years, I did do a home haunt, but I mean, nothing.
I remember some of the good ones you had. The snaking through the backyard,
the Shining Maze.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Awesome.
I don't remember the themes, but I just remember just how elaborate they were. They were almost like, if I didn't know any better, I'd be like, oh, Knott's did this. It's pretty good.
We ended up getting some really good compliments from all the neighborhood kids.
Yeah,
I mean, it's tarps and painted walls and things like that, so it's very low budget. But
have you ever missed a year and then had people go, "What? I thought you were gonna do a maze."
Yeah, we'd have people come into the front door. And,
oh, okay, that's cool.
Or even if I don't actually decorate, I still go out and be a character around the streets and entertain. Good. So we'd get people coming through like, "Oh, you're not doing a maze this year."
Yeah. What about your? Hold on.
Andy's eating
Cheetos. I'm sucking on them.
This will only be bonus episode material.
So, Jeff, tell us a little bit about you being in entertainment production. What kind of projects do you work on?
I started out as a photographer and worked my way into a little bit of video editing. I think I actually edited my first project on one of your old computers. Took a few Photoshop classes in high school, some graphic design classes in college. Ended up taking like a theater class and really was enjoying entertaining.
You did the makeup thing too.
Yeah.
That was
I
really
ended up
cool.
doing hair and makeup for one of the shows at Cypress College, which was really fun. It was a great opportunity. And got me more into makeup, so I started shooting little videos that featured, a throat being slit or like somebody getting beat up and, their wounds. And it was mostly wound special effects that I was into. Never got into beauty. So that really got me started doing like short videos and short films and things. And it turns out I really was enjoying directing when that led into producing. And now I really enjoy bringing a project from start to finish, whether that means I'm in the writing process, on set, making sure things are running smoothly, or just, moral support for other people's projects. I just love, being on set, even if I'm not a part of the production. It's a great atmosphere.
What are you currently working on right now?
So we just finished up my first big feature. That was I was the story writer, the director, the editor, and I executive produced the project. And so that's almost through post-production right now. We're in sound design and
You're saying you're doing the color corrections and all that stuff on it right now.
I am, which is kind of a blessing and a curse. It's really cool to actually like dive in and understand how to make colors pop and get an underexposed image, because working with such a small budget, it's really hard to light a night scene properly.
Yeah.
So you really have to know how to kind of bring out the right colors.
In me and Andy, when we used to do our little film projects, I can remember a lot of times where maybe the color wasn't right, and like, maybe we were using, what color temperature is, right? So the color temperature of the room just didn't look right. Everyone's face looks orange. You got to try and turn that to make them look a little bit more blue. Yeah.
And then even just within one scene from shot to shot, there was one shot in You Ride, my last film, that it was shot all within about, an hour and a half, but every single angle somehow came out differently. So that was that was a real mission.
Because you got to make them match.
Yeah.
If you cut from, one of my biggest pet peeves is someone who breaks the 180 rule.
Yes.
And
unless it's intentional.
No, yeah, you're right. There's definitely reasons to break the 180 rule, but like as long as you understand the 180. So for anyone
exactly, like you can break the rules if you know them.
So the story I tell is there's this YouTube video, and it's two people meet each other walking on the street, and there's a fence behind them, and they start talking to each other. So whoever filmed it was slightly lazy, and they only set up the camera one way to do the headshot, the straight on shot. Uh-huh. So the fence is always on the left side. So even if the person that was standing on the right is talking, where it would technically be on the right side, the fence is always there. And it's like, but here's the thing: the video is so funny that by the end of it, you forget all about it. I'll admit, I'll show you guys the video later.
That would drive me nuts.
It drove me nuts for like the first 3 cuts, and I'm like, ugh.
Was it on purpose or was it?
No,
was
and
it
I even told the person, I'm like, make it easy, just flip the one video for the one person that's that, and they were like, whatever. And the thing is that like the video is still funny enough on its own that it ends up it's a goofy video. I buried the lead a little bit. That was a Tom Vrab video.
I was thinking. So it was where they keep holding up different objects.
Exactly. Okay. And so it's like, it's meant to be kind of goofy, so maybe I'm being a little critical, but the whole thing is that I noticed it right off the bat. I'm like, I can't stand this.
Well, once you work in video production, it's really hard to watch amateur film, because you start picking it apart. I shouldn't say picking it apart, but you really notice all the continuity errors.
Definitely.
Well, Jeff, tell us a little bit about You Ride. Tell us what the story is, how you came up with the story.
Spoil the ending for us,
yes,
because that's my favorite thing.
Okay, so in the very end, it turns out that it
was Darth Vader's father?
Snape killed Dumbledore.
Okay, so I came up with You Ride about 2.5 years ago, and I was working at the airport. A lot of downtime, which was a fantastic job for my writing projects, and really any kind of project, but more for brainstorming, because you didn't actually have to put in mind power into the monotonous jobs you were doing. But came up with the concept back then and wrote the story for it. Got it into production about little over a year ago, about a year and a month ago, because I think I just saw on Facebook that we wrapped a year ago. So yeah, it's about a rideshare driver who becomes infatuated with one of his passengers. There is definitely something going on that he maybe misconstrues for being a little bit more than
Romantic, maybe?
Yeah, exactly. I really can't spoil the movie. I can't say a whole lot without spoiling the movie, but it's about a crazy rideshare driver who wants what he can't have.
Is there somewhere you can tell us where we can watch a trailer for it?
Yeah, actually on YouTube, if you check out us, or if you check us out on social media, we have an Instagram, Twitter, a YouTube, pretty much anything you can find. Just look up You Ride Movie, URIDEMOVIE.
Yeah.
And on YouTube, just type in You Ride or You Ride trailer, and you'll find a few of our videos.
Does it have, and not to like try and compare or contrast or anything, but like, does it have a feel like 1 Hour Photo, the movie, the Robin Williams film?
It was actually styled a lot like Drive or Nightcrawler.
Okay. Have you seen 1 Hour Photo though? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. So like,
and actually a little bit. Of
so how he kind of stalks the family and he thinks there's something there with something. It's
exactly. But in his case, it's a little bit more understandable about what's going on.
Sure. She's maybe a little bit more flirty or
playing
whatever.
it.
Yeah.
Well, we have a short audio clip. It's kind of like an audio trailer that we're going to play here. It's featuring what would you refer to Kevin Horton as, the narrator or trailer person or what?
Yeah, Kevin Horton would be the voiceover actor who narrates our trailers.
Nice.
Okay. So we'll go ahead and play that here real quick for you.
Every year, millions of Americans use rideshare apps to get to their destination. But how well do you know your driver? Your ride is here.
Well, that sounds really cool. I'm looking forward to it. I know that you've been working super hard on it. So I've seen some footage, I've seen some trailers that you've worked on over the last year, and it looks awesome.
So thank you.
Super pumped to see it.
I'm excited for the premiere. Get everybody out for it.
Yeah.
You going to do it at the theater again?
Yeah, possibly at the Krikorian. We also have a couple theaters up in the San Dimas area that we may end up doing like a pre-dinner and drinks and then, an after party after the theater.
Nice.
Now, do you have anything else up in the pipeline that you're starting to work on? Or
Yeah, so actually under Final Stop Pictures, my production company, we have another film that is set to release in a handful of months, and it's also found footage about a group of hikers that go up into the Arizona desert to uncover an ancient evil, and it's called Dark Figures.
Have you ever had any mishaps or anything while you were filming? I know you told me one story about a storage unit or something like that in one of your previous.
Yeah. So as an independent filmmaker, you don't get the luxury of having permits and set locations for a lot of your shoots. So there's a lot of guerrilla style filmmaking that goes on where, just run a gun, get what you can get and get out of there. So, on my first feature, Hadron, we shot a lot of it in a storage unit, and the end, there's like a big chase through like the halls of the unit. And of course there's guns, which were not real. I do have to specify they were completely fake guns, plastic, and they were supposedly closed. So one of the actors comes around the corner and comes face to face with somebody who has a storage unit in the facility. So that was a fun little talk, but he ended up being a porn producer and he wanted to collaborate.
What? I didn't know that part.
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
Was he filming in the storage unit?
No, well, I didn't see his unit.
That'd be a good place to do it, right?
No, he told us, it's a lucrative chapter of the film industry, but, I can't morally or ethically get involved.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of movies, one of my favorite movies of all time, I just watched this the other night, Man on the Moon.
Yeah.
Probably top 10, even top 5 movies of all time for me. I just love it. And it's just fascinating, like Andy Kaufman, the whole story of his death and stuff. And I've like read every book about Andy Kaufman and watched.
I've got to actually read the book that you read, and I've got to watch that documentary that Jim Carrey did. I just honestly been putting it off.
Yeah, it's just super fascinating because he supposedly died back in 1984, and I don't believe he died. There's been like Andy Kaufman sightings by people, and even his alter ego Tony Clifton, who was a character he created with Bob Zamuda.
But wasn't Tony Clifton actually a real guy though?
I don't think anybody knows, honestly, because nobody knew who he was until Andy Kaufman came around.
Sure.
But the reason why I think, I mean, one of the reasons why is Tony Clifton still performs. He's still around.
And that's Zamunda, though, technically.
No, it's not Zamunda.
You think it's...
It's not Zamunda. No, it's not.
You think it's...
I think it's Andy Kaufman. I really do.
I have to say, though, I've listened to a podcast with Tony Clifton, and then I listened to a podcast with Zamunda, and I'm like, that guy sounds just like Tony Clifton. If that guy did an impression of Tony Clifton, he sounds like Zamunda.
Well, Zamunda did play Tony Clifton.
So he could probably pull it off.
Yeah, Andy Kaufman actually,
now, do you know,
last few years of his life, he said, Zamunda, you take over and you do Tony Clifton now. I don't want to do it anymore. So Zamunda did Tony Clifton for the last few years of his life anyway. So,
and he did it for, in listening to that one episode, he did it in place of Jim Carrey.
At the Playboy Mansion. Yeah, that's funny. Look that up, Gilbert Gottfried's podcast with Bob Zamunda. There's some entertaining stories about Tony Clifton in there.
Interesting story. So I guess it's called a cosplay now, but I don't think it's really a cosplay. But basically, I do an impression of Tony Clifton. It's not the best ever, but I posted a picture on my Instagram, and as soon as I posted that picture, the next day, it was like, you have a comment, and it was from the official Tony Clifton, and his thing says, another guy trying to rip off my act.
No, that is amazing.
I'll have to show you that. It's
that's so cool.
Yeah, and I've looked at his thing. It's the official Tony Clifton. I've looked at all of his things. I'm like, that's awesome. I got a comment from the Tony Clifton.
I hope you screenshot that.
But I have it on Instagram, so it's there. But the thing is that I don't. What's rough though is that as I look through his thing, I've seen comments that he's posted, and then people have said, "You're not the real Tony Clifton. This isn't the real." But I mean, like, that's just part of the allure of him.
Yeah,
it's
nobody
like,
really knows.
Yeah, I'll show it to you later.
Well, speaking of Tony Clifton, we're gonna call him because I want to get his take on this, because we know Bob Zamunda has gone out and said he believes Andy's still alive. He's like actually been saying like, Andy, come back. We want you back. We'll set up like a big old premiere party for you to come back.
So wait, you said you have Tony Clifton's phone number?
Yeah.
Okay.
I got all the crazy phone numbers.
Okay,
like
we
the last
do this.
podcast, we had Michael Myers.
And Mike
Sorry,
Myers.
that was Mike Myers, not Michael Myers. And then
Still working that one. Still efforting that one.
I'll try to get the real Michael Myers. But yeah, I have his number, so we're gonna call him in a second. I did want to add one other thing though regarding this, is that Bob Zamunda has said he had talked to Andy prior to him announcing that he had cancer, and Andy was like, "Oh, I would love to fake my death." He's wanted to do this, talked about the logistics of it, and he said, if I were to fake my death, I'd go away for 30 years before coming back. 30 years was 2014.
Dang.
So
maybe he died in the meantime.
Yeah, maybe everybody's like, oh, maybe he just got hit.
Because that's the thing
by
with
a
like
bus.
that's the thing with like Elvis, where it's like, yeah, maybe he faked his death initially, but he's dead by now.
Mhm.
I mean, for sure, he'd be like 100, right?
Yeah.
Or like 80 or something.
Yeah, I don't know. He'd be old, but yeah, I hope he comes back. I would love to see Andy Kaufman come back. That'd be amazing. So let's go ahead and call Tony Clifton. Yeah. What do you
Sure,
think?
sounds good.
Okay, so let's let me get the number really quick.
Oh, hey, I have to return some videotapes.
Now?
Yeah, I.
While we're on the air.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I gotta go. I'll be back though. It'll only take me like 10 or 15 minutes.
All right. Okay. All right. Go. That's all. That's Paul. Always got to return videotapes or make a tax payment. All right. Whatever. Let's call him.
Hello?
Tony.
Yeah.
Tony Clifton. I've always.
Yeah.
This is Andy Moore with Scares Anonymous podcast. I have here with my brother Jeff.
Hey, I'm really excited to be talking with you today.
As you should be. I am a celebrity.
You're a major celebrity. I really want to see you in one of your shows. I've been anxious to do that for a while, but I really wanted to.
I play the biggest show clubs in Vegas.
That you do. We were talking about Andy Kaufman here just a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
Do you? I mean, what do you think? Did you think he actually died? Do you think back in
I'll tell you
1984?
You want to say Andy Kaufman?
Yeah.
Want to say Andy Kaufman?
Yeah.
Got a flashlight and a shovel?
We can get him, I guess. But honestly, do you think he died? I mean, what's your thoughts on this?
What did I just say?
Okay. Well, I was hoping you'd give me a little more insight than just the same thing you say to everybody.
I got nothing.
Well, how about this? Are you Andy Kaufman?
you!
Oh, hey, we're trying to run a
you!
PG-13 show here,
Can you say that?
Andy Kaufman, fucking dead!
dude. We're
I'm not Andy fucking Kaufman!
I was just asking a simple question. I don't know why you're freaking out on me.
Shut the fuck up!
Tony, we're on the air here.
Hey, like I said, we're doing a PG-13 show here.
PG, fuck you, 13!
Tony, seriously, can you? I mean, I know you don't like talking about this. It's a sensitive subject, but all the things
Shut
line
the
up.
fuck up!
Are you Andy Kaufman?
I already told you once! I told you twice! So fuck that!
Yeah, that. Oh, man, that guy's a freaking nut. Okay, so.
I didn't know it was going to explode like
Ooh,
that.
wow, Paul missed a lot there. So,
Hey guys, what did I miss?
dude, that was quick. You returned those videos so fast.
Yeah, I mean it's just down the street, so
It's a Redbox?
yeah. Something
Does
like that.
Redbox have tapes?
Yeah, you missed some craziness.
What
from
happened?
Tony Clifton freaked out on us, man.
Well, I mean, it's Tony Clifton.
Yeah,
You was surprised?
True. All right, well, yeah. If you haven't seen Man on the Moon, you should look it up. Look up that movie. It's rad.
Besides
super
the
good movie.
Terrible REM song. No, I actually
I
count.
like that song.
I actually do count.
Which one?
Man on the Moon.
Yeah, that one's great.
I know, but it's like technically REM is kind of eh.
It's almost as good as Everybody Hurts.
Sometimes.
Shiny happy people.
Oh, I hate that song. Jeff, do you remember the time when you told on me for farting in my own room and I got in trouble?
I do. That was awesome.
No, it wasn't.
One of the perks of being the youngest.
Punk. Mike, who we did a podcast episode with last night, which I don't know, I might release this before his, but either way, Mike is another friend of ours who...
I like the mix up of continuity.
Yeah. Well, Mike loves that story. He pretty much every time I see Mike, he mentions the time that I got in trouble for farting in my own room because Jeff told on me. And that was when I was, I don't know, I was probably like 17 or something like that. And he told on me and I got in trouble. And that was stupid. For farting in my own room.
I got a topic if you wanna do something. We talked a little bit about sliding with Mike, but you also slid. You did a little bit of sliding at the rink.
I did.
I never slid with Mike at the rink. Mike never, as far as I know, ever really practiced. But we used to do that, and I used to film a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
With that. And there's some videos out there that are pretty legit. Is it still on YouTube?
Yeah, if you just type in slider practice take 1, slider practice take 2, and
Yeah.
slider practice take 3. There's
You did a third one?
I think so. Yeah, I don't think people really watched it.
I know that there was a third one that I wanted to collaborate with you because I had borrowed a high-speed camera from my work when I worked at the camera
that would've
store.
been cool.
And I have all the slow motion videos, and I posted one of them. My favorite one is the one where you're sliding over and you jump over some cones. It's all in slow motion, and then there's like the two girls in the background just kind of like flapping their wings like little birds or whatever. It was kind of funny looking.
Yeah, it was always cool to cut in, just kind of mix it up because it's a little bit more about the culture than it is just about the sliding. So
Yeah.
it was nice to feature.
Yeah, that was
everything
like
that was going on.
That was the cool thing about those groups was that like it wasn't about. I mean, some of the people wanted to like learn and how to do the.
But then there were a lot of people that just came to hang out.
Yeah, just to hang out. It did get a little overblown, and then like when people were starting to kind of be
Loud and
also
littering.
like leaving trash and stuff like that. Remember the hockey guys though? Hockey guys
Oh my
hated
gosh,
us,
yeah.
and that was rough because
we almost had to throw it down one day.
yeah, well, like we were taking up half the rink, and they were taking up the other half, and we got kicked out. We got banned from that place.
Jeez.
So, but it was a really fun time to hang out with those people and learn and do all that stuff.
Heck yeah. I'm a little
remember-
disappointed that I never got a little bit more into it. I was still on the old school, kneecaps that you
Yeah,
can't go very far.
The Protex.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I got the scabs, I was like, yeah, this is miles better. I remember some of our funny like tricks we used to do because I remember there was one time
the Kenny
when-
roll. Where you slide, you get onto your side, you roll, and you
that's
continue
right.
sliding.
I like that. You know what's funny is that it was called the Kenny roll.
Is there a new name for it now?
Well, I don't know if anyone calls it the Kenny roll anymore, but
I don't think many people knew it was called the Kenny roll.
yeah. Well, it was fun because we did a trick. One that I liked is we ran and I would slide and do a 180, and then I would stand up, and then you would slide and go through my legs.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah, I have a slow mo video of that one.
Dang,
somewhere.
I'd love to see that.
Yeah. My favorite one is when I got Beggs jumping over some cones, but as he's in mid-flight, he just flips off the camera. It was pretty
Nice.
funny.
Jeff, we didn't even go into like stories you have from haunt, scaring stories, or even from scaring at our parents' backyard or whatever. Do you have any specific stories you enjoyed while scaring?
Just this last season, it was pretty awesome scare. You know, there's caution tape and props and everything set up all around
This was at our parents' house.
Yeah. A bunch of props and caution tape strewn about, and I can't remember if I was just playing a dummy, like, you know, laying against props or whatever, but this girl came walking by and I jumped up for her and she booked it and ate it, like tumbling over everything. She tore apart like so many decorations, tore spider webs down and caution tape as she was just trying to flee the scene.
Good stuff.
So another fun story was my first year in Slaughterhouse. There was a friend of mine that worked in there who we actually became friends that year. He was a mutual friend. He really had my back. There was a guest coming through that was scaring the monsters. There was a guest coming through trying to scare the monsters.
Yeah. Big distinction.
Yeah, running around corners and banging and
we
grabbing
never talked
monsters.
about that. What you do when someone tries to scare you? What I wanted to ask Mike, but maybe we can ask him later. What do you do when someone tries to scare you?
Well, it's really hard to scare me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I actually have another funny one about that. Another guest who was coming through.
Go on your story, and then we'll talk about that later.
Okay, we'll kind of bunny hop from one to the other. So it's like my first couple weeks, and there's a guest coming through trying to scare the monsters, and he's actually like grabbing monsters, like touching them, which
cheats.
is too wrong.
Cheats.
And so he seems to be harassing the female monster that's in the room in front of mine, and so I go up and I make sure that nothing's going on. And when I got there, nothing was happening. And so this new friend of mine came over and he thought something was happening. And so he picks up this guest, lifts him over his head and throws him down onto the ground in front of me. And the guest jumped up and just booked it out of the maze.
Wow. That's like self-policing right there.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
Got to protect your other monsters.
Jeez.
You
were talking about guests trying to scare, and what I always do is I always turn around after they do it and I go, yeah, that didn't work. That's always what I say. Yeah, that didn't work.
Mike always used to tell me that his favorite thing to do is just point and laugh. Like someone tries to jump and scare you, you go, ha ha ha, you suck. And the best part was that all of their friends would laugh at them.
Yeah.
I learned this one from, I think it was from Strawberry Richard. Someone tries to scare you, I go, no, I will not make out with you. I'm just around here trying to scare people, and this guy's trying to make out with me? No, gross.
Well, I like to try to time it so you can kind of tell when a guest is lingering. You know what they're doing. They're not just going to follow directly behind you for no reason.
Yeah.
So you can kind of time it and just keep them in the corner of your eye while you're doing your thing, and by the time they're ready to attack, you're also ready. So as they're lunging towards you, you kind of snap back to them, and a lot of times they're just not expecting you to get them.
I'll have to admit that on the streets I was really good. I don't think anyone hardly ever. I can get startled because that happens if some quick movement comes at me. I'm gonna flinch. I mean, I don't consider that being scared, but you know that's technically what we're doing. So fine, it's a scare, whatever. I can admit it. I can be humble enough. But in the mazes it's a little different, and there used to be no way that you could get me. And I can even remember a time me and my buddy were like staring off in the distance doing something stupid. Like we were staring at some prop and we could sense this guy walking behind us, but he was being really quiet. And then he jumped and he was like, ah! We both just turned slowly and go like, keep moving. And the person that was watching us was like, dang, I can't believe you didn't get scared on that. And we were like, yeah, it's just like, there's a sixth sense you end up getting from that.
Absolutely is.
But I will say this, there was one guest, and it pisses me off to this day that he got me. They were like the only people walking through the maze, and I was following through the maze. And at one particular point, I don't know how he got me, but like he was a room ahead of me the whole time, and then finally I go around one corner and he happened to be waiting for me, and he popped around and it was face to face, and I jumped back and he's all, I got you, and I'm all, I'm like, yeah.
Super annoying.
It's annoying, and I was like, and I led myself into that one. The one that I thought, another one that was pretty funny was, this is when I was in Scare Force and I had face makeup, right? This guy's girlfriend is losing it. She cannot handle it. And I'm just like, I'm laughing. This is in the Cornstalkers maze. And I'm like, like doing some crazy stuff. And he's just like, babe, it's not even scary. He doesn't even have a mask on. Which I thought was funny because I'm like, oh, is it like the masks that are scary? But I'm like, I have face makeup. I look kind of scary with my face makeup. She's like, yeah, he doesn't even have a mask on. And then finally he like turned around and flinched at me. But I was just close enough to where I had to flinch back because he was a little too close. And he's like, I got you. And I'm all, you didn't get me. I was too close to you. But he got me. Have you ever been had though, honestly? I mean, at least a flinch or something?
Yeah, of course.
Occasionally. But, I mean, usually the times that I do get scared from somebody grabbing or scaring is because they grab me, which is cheating.
Yeah.
Cheating.
Well, I had the privilege of scaring it at your farm a couple years, and there's a bunch of like gravel roads, and so you get a bunch of kids that throw rocks at you.
Yeah. Oh, that happens all the time.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. Little shits. Jeff, anything else from any other scaring
Any
stories?
funny stories? Like,
Oh yeah, totally. Back in Slaughter. Okay, so most of my time at Haunt was spent in the 2 years at Slaughterhouse. So that's the majority of my stories. But I'm not going to name any names because a lot of people may or may not still be employed by the park. But I used to stop the line, get everyone to hold back for a while.
which you're not supposed to do.
Yeah, you're very much not supposed to do that.
Scare forward is what they say, right?
Yeah.
So I would stop the line, let the maze clear out a little ahead of me, and I'd tell the guests, okay, on the count of 3, you all have to follow me. It's going to get really intense, and we need to book it out of here. 1, 2, 3, and I'd start taking off around the corner, and they have these little cutouts where, you can hide to do a pop scare or whatever, and in this one, there's like a fog machine that blows into another room. So it's pretty large size room, and so I book it around the corner and jump into there, and all the guests start coming in there, and we have about 5 or 6 monsters all lining the walls of this pitch black room, and the last person in this group comes into the room, and a monster stands blocking the doorway, and we all start banging and screaming, and man, they freaked out.
That's awesome. So it's like a closed off, it's like a backstage spot, right?
Yeah, it's
wow.
really not meant to go into. Like
Yeah.
you're supposed to just kind of pop in and out of the doorway, but
Oh, that's so
we used
good.
it for a little bit more. We ended up getting in trouble.
But you know what though? Like, okay, so
Wait, hey, I got most creative that year, so
Yeah.
that's what it's about.
Sweet.
but here's the thing, like, it's not a big criticism on management and whatnot, but I'm gonna critique it a little bit. And that is that if you're not the person doing the thing, you don't know what works, because you have to try
True.
new things to understand what works. And that's kind of where when Knott started doing that, not escape room thing, but, well, it's kind of an escape room. What
Like the
was
skeleton
Trapped.
key?
Well, Trapped.
Oh, okay.
So, like, when they started doing that, other haunts were like, whoa, that's kind of working. But here's the
They
thing.
really started experimenting a lot more.
But that's
there.
the thing. Here's, like, technically, some of the maze monsters were doing, like, what you're talking about. That's the equivalent of that. Where it's
True.
like, it's all about changing the expectation of scaring. And, like, it's not just walking in a straight line and then having people pop out.
Yeah.
Because that gets old very fast. But people still enjoy it. I still enjoy it. If that ever went away, I would be bummed. But I love the idea of it's a growing thing. You have to learn new things and new
Yeah.
tactics to scare. And that's why all these other haunts basically started copying Knott's and doing these escape room things and making them more elaborate and more intense and more crazy.
Yeah.
And so, and it's a bummer that you would get in trouble at the maze level for doing something that is honestly the scariest thing, and it totally works.
Well, in their defense, if I was running the operation and there were, monsters that were doing that kind of thing, I'd be pretty pissed too. 'Cause
Would you, though?
because then I'm liable for, if somebody gets hurt in this pitch black room
I
that they're not
gotcha.
supposed to be in.
Okay, but then okay, so like, but then be proactive instead of reactive. So like, you go, all right, well then that's a cool idea. We're not doing that now.
Let's make a dark room that you can scare it.
Let's
Yeah.
make that a thing. And I was actually going to say, I think that's a really cool idea with this running through the maze, because I think it's a cool idea to have, okay, let's stop and let's see how, well, I don't know. That sounds stupid. Like, run as fast as you can through the maze. Super dangerous.
Yeah.
But have you ever been, the opposite is worse though. The opposite of like walking through a maze and then the line stops and you're just standing there. This happened to me once, and it was the most embarrassing moment, I think, for me. Was I was in the clown maze, and there was like this bike rack, and I was climbing along the bike rack, and what I was doing was I was just being like a goofy clown, and then the maze stopped right in front of me in this well-lit room. I'm climbing on a bike rack doing absolutely nothing, and then I look over
And you have an audience.
and I'm like, And I'm like, I don't know what to do right here because this wasn't my plan. My plan was to like do something stupid and then like jump off of this and then run around the corner or whatever.
Now that everyone's watching.
And now everyone's watching and I look over and I think all I'm trying to do is just like look creepy, but I'm like, I don't know what to do. And then one dude in the audience is all, do something, bro. And I'm all, goodbye. And I ran away. It was
awesome.
So my thing a stopped line is definitely way worse than a running line.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, we kind of did both.
But what I'm saying is if you stop them at the front, it'd be a little different because then they're not even in the maze yet. I don't know. Maybe there's a way to do it. That's why like the like Knott's does the like let a couple people in, let a couple people in, let a couple people in.
Because it really takes away when you're stuck in one room, not moving.
But places like Sinister Point and a couple other places that I've been to,
They just keep the line going?
well, no, what they do is they do it a little bit better where they stop the line and they go 10 people in and that's it.
Huh.
And then they wait like 2 minutes and
How
then
does-
they let 10 people in.
How is it?
Well, the thing is the lines are extraordinarily long, but your experience through the maze is a lot better.
That's how they do it at Roca too. They don't, they take breaks.
Yeah.
So the line, like for the psychopath at Roca, is like busy nights. You're waiting an hour and a half sometimes.
Yeah.
Dang.
But you're going through and by yourself, so
Having
you're
a
not.
better experience.
Yeah, you're not standing in the haunted line, like
Yeah.
the haunted Congo line. Isn't that what they call it? a lot of
Sure,
times?
yeah, that's a good, yeah. I think I get it from like an amusement park's perspective. You got 13 mazes, you got 10,000 guests or whatever the threshold is. Even some nights the mazes with the way they do it, the wait's still 2 hours.
Right.
And it's like even that with the volume that they're getting through,
Right.
it's crazy.
You guys ever scare somebody and then feel bad afterwards? Like you did something that
Yes.
was totally kind of messed up and then feel guilty?
All the time. A lot of times, like, there's a lot of parents that just bring their kids. And
Mhm.
they should not.
No.
I never feel bad.
I
about
hate
that.
when I see parents with a stroller. It's just like, I just feel bad for that kid.
Yeah.
Oh,
Because even if they don't know what's going on, best case scenario, there's a lot of really loud noises that
Yeah.
are affecting this kid.
Right.
I remember once in Carnival, the restaurant by the bumper cars, there had a dining area there. And my favorite thing to do is I used to like to come around from the entrance of the I guess it was technically the exit of the Charles Schultz Theater. You could walk around. And I remember I used to love to pop around the corner. And then if anyone was sitting there at the benches, I would jump and I would scare them. And I remember one time I jumped down and I slammed my hands on the table to scare the guests that were there. And then there was a little kid in a stroller. And I immediately was like, oh, I'm so sorry. I feel so bad.
Yeah. Well, at the same time, like, that's on the parents and that's not
Yeah,
on us.
well, it was-
I never intentionally scare kids.
I think what it was, well,
Unless they're punks, then I do.
well, the thing about it was that I remember it was like, I was only looking at the adults, and then I looked over at the kid, and this kid just had this melting face where it was just like, oh, like it totally lost it.
Jeez.
I used to do a thing that I don't feel bad about, but I probably should feel bad about it, and that is that anytime I saw someone in a wheelchair, I used to walk up to them and go, see, I like you. You never run away from me.
Jeez.
They always laughed at it.
So at Roca, it gets cold because it's in Nebraska and it's freaking cold. So we sell a lot of like hot chocolate and stuff towards the end of October. And there's this one kid, and one of my scares is I carry a shaker can on a
I
string.
know where this is going.
Yeah, I carry a shaker can on a string, and I throw it at people, and it bounces back into my hand. Well, this kid I saw, he's probably, I don't know, 15, 16 years old or something like that. He comes walking down this, walking up, and he's holding a hot chocolate. And in my head, I went, don't do it, Andy. Don't do it. Because I knew what was going to happen, but I could not do it. So I threw my shaker can, and he spilled it all over his shirt. And I immediately felt so guilty about it. I'm like, I'm so sorry.
I have a similar story. So Knott's sells beer, and I remember I scared someone once, and they moved and they dropped like the top like quarter of their beer on the floor, and those beers
That's like $5 worth.
I'm saying, like, I was like, those beers are like $13. And I remember, but here was the thing, I was the drunk mechanic, so I was like, oh no, the precious. And I was like trying to pretend to scoop it up. I do remember doing that and then going like, oh, I feel so bad. That's like $5 worth of beer right there.
Yeah, somebody dropped a caramel apple once when I was scared. Actually, you know what? They didn't drop it because I scared them. I walked up just as the girls had dropped it, and she turned to me and she's like, "What are you even doing? You're not doing anything. You're just walking around." I turned to her and I was like, "Don't be mad at me because you dropped your caramel apple." And all her friends just started busting up, and she just looked so pissed.
It's amazing.
Well, back to the throwing things in people's faces. It's such a funny reaction to see it. Like, it's hard to explain, but it's like they stumble backwards and blink.
Yeah.
But my friend Jam in Slaughterhouse, I stole this idea from him. They used to give our props and masks in like a mesh bag. I don't know what they do now, but it had like a long string on the end of it, and so he was. I think his character was like up on top of something, maybe up on top of the cages. Uh-huh. And as people would come around, I mean, you're way above everyone. They're not going to notice you at all. So you have to get really creative. And so he took his bag, and I don't know if he put something soft in the end of it just so it was a little bit weighted, but he'd sit up there and he had this awesome cowboy hat. And so he'd do like a lasso thing with it and then throw it down into their face without hitting them, of course, and like whip it back. And
there was something fun about the skill level of knowing the distance of something. Yeah. Yep. There was a guy in Carnival that used to have like a clown dummy on a string, and he named the thing Waffles. And he would drag it behind him. He's all, "Hey, anyone want some waffles?" And he'd whip that thing, and it would like inches from people's faces. When
Nice.
when you were good at that.
Yeah.
Was that there this year?
No, I mean maybe they brought something similar back.
I feel like there was a dummy that was getting thrown around.
I'm sure.
I was so surprised that after that many days of being thrown around that it was still alive.
Good ideas repeat themselves. I mean, like obviously shaker cans repeat themselves. Clicky gloves repeat themselves. Obviously, you know, then they gets overplayed or whatever. I remember
you just have to get creative with what you have.
I used to do something similar, but I always wanted to make my thing theme appropriate. So like when I was in Redbeards, I had a little tiny bottle of rum that I painted gold because I painted everything gold, and I put it at the end of a shoestring, and I used to throw it in people's faces, and it was just this little bottle of rum.
That's what's fun though. You have so many different things that you can bring in each night, and you're there for the entire month, so you get to play with a lot of different tools of scaring.
Yeah, I mean, and that kind of goes back to what I was saying, where it's like change it up a bit, you know? I mean, I remember in Carnival, I don't know if you ever experienced this, but they had the Abyss. They would get so messed up because when they took out Perilous Plunge, I don't know if this is like a bad thing to talk about, but when they took out Perilous Plunge, and there was just like a big building, and there was like some doors to it, right? The clowns would gather people, and they made a fake sign, and they were like, "This is a special maze, everyone." They would get like 100 people standing in this big group, and they were like, "All right, guys, you ready? We're going to open up the abyss." And they would drop the sign and walk away, leaving the guests just to be like, what's happening here? And definitely complaints ensued.
Is that kind of like before Redbeard's Revenge, where they would tell people
the
pirate maze?
Or the kayak maze?
Or the Yeti maze?
Yeah. Exactly.
Maze, yeah.
Yeah.
Or you get guests coming through. What's good here?
Yeah.
It's like you're asking an active monster what's good.
Where's
so
the pirate maze?
You just tell them it's a bullcrap maze that's there.
Okay, so before we wrap up here, I am going to do my random question for Jeff, and Paul, you can answer as well.
It's my favorite part, actually.
I love the random questions.
Kind of excited to find out.
You got anyone on Instagram asking questions? I want to hear that.
No, I forgot to do it
you should open it up.
I can't do live. Androids suck. They don't have live capability.
What?
Well, maybe you could post up like who's going to be on your show and say like if you have a question for them.
Yeah, I'll do that for the next ones. So we're going to do the random questions. So Jeff, your random question is, what is the scariest moment of your life?
Oh, geez. Oh, okay. So it's not even like haunt related or anything. We were all camping, family and friends, and we went to the river, and it was awesome. We're all playing and, walking across the river and skipping rocks and, having a good old time. And all of a sudden the water starts getting higher and higher, and everyone starts kind of looking to make sure everyone's okay and figure out what's going on. And it keeps getting higher and higher.
Quickly.
Yeah, very quickly. And so there's about 3 or 4 of us that are still kind of in the river, and now we're trying to get out. Like it's a large river, so we're like, in it kayaking and canoeing and, floating and
there was,
floaties.
I know exactly what you're talking about. There was kind of like a section where you walk through part of the river, and then there's a little bit higher place where you're kind of walking around the rocks,
yeah, exactly.
Right? So you're kind of in the middle of the river.
Yeah, just having a good time, and water starts rising.
Wow.
And it starts rushing quicker and quicker. And so now we're all trying to get each other out of the river.
Because now you have to go across the part that was actually deeper.
Fully underwater. And now it's like, waist high water rushing down.
Oh.
And so we're all linked arms, just fighting across it. I can't remember who it was, but it was an older man that was with us. And I remember he was in the lead kind of guiding us because I was still a kid. And he fell and smashed his crotch on a giant rock, and he's still trying to pull us out of the river, and everyone's trying to reach in and grab us out. And man, it was nuts. And come to find out, they have a reservoir that they occasionally let water out of, and they don't actually announce.
They just do it and just hope nobody dies.
Good job.
I feel like that recently, and this was up, I think, near Lake Tahoe. I feel like I heard recently that somebody died in that river because because of that. I might be wrong, but
that's dangerous. Have a siren or something. Clue people in.
Signs, because we weren't. It wasn't like we just pulled over on the side of the road and found a place. We were at this place where people go in the water. There's there
were other
shops
people
and
there.
Stuff. You'd think that there'd be a sign that says "Hey, sometimes they let water out of the dam." It's crazy.
Geez, mine's small potatoes to that. Can you put mine first so mine doesn't seem so weak? Probably, I was rear-ended on the freeway once, which, whatever, that was kind of scary. Gosh, now this sounds so lame. I always wanted to do street racing, and then I learned about drifting and all that stuff, and I thought drifting was so cool, but I always drove a front-wheel drive car, and you can't technically drift with a front-wheel drive car. Someone's probably going to correct me on that, but
wrong, Paul.
Freaking damn. So really the only way you drift, all I wanted to do with drifting was get the back end to swing out, and that's all I wanted, and then kind of turn around the corner, right? So I used to have to wait until it was raining, and then I would pull the e-brake, and then, the tires would just skid. Mm-hmm. And so do you remember, what was that street, that little street that would bypass Bicatella? Was it Warmonger or Wardlow? Wardlow.
No, it was Warlick?
Warlick, yeah.
Something like that.
Anyway, so there was that little street, and I was like, okay, this is a perfect spot. It's got a little curve, and it was just raining. It wasn't raining currently. The roads were still slick. I was like, all right, here we go. And I'm going to try this. And so I pull the e-brake, and I get my back to swing out, and then I go to let go, but I didn't let go of the e-brake all the way, so it's stuck. And I'm swinging around. I did a full-on 180, and then I overcorrected, and then I swung back the other way. And then I stopped, and I was like, I don't want to be a drifter anymore.
Jeez.
I mean, at least, yeah, not in a front-wheel drive car.
Well, I was going to tell mine, but I have another. That reminds me of another one. I got in a car accident when I was, 24 or something like that. And I've never been in a car accident before this, but I was in Denver, and it had just snowed, and I was trying to take some back shortcut to work because I was running late, and I went on this road that I never go on. It was a little side street. And there's a stop sign. It goes down this little hill at the end, and there's a stop sign right before it connects to the main road again. And so I was going down this road, and I started braking, and I didn't start stopping at all. I just slid on the ice all the way through the stop sign, and I remember going, oh, God, please, God, ah! And I was yelling, praying, and I went into the street. A semi-truck was coming. My car went underneath the trailer, and the back wheels of his semi-truck hit the front of my car, spun it around, and I was driving a Ford Explorer. But if I had been a second earlier or half a second earlier, my whole car probably would have been under the trailer, and the truck tires would have hit, where I was sitting. Luckily, they hit the hood.
Wow.
But if it had been a second earlier, I could have died, honestly.
Jeez.
But yeah, it was freaking terrifying. Well, my story that actually I think is probably the scariest moment of my life. Well, there's two of them, but I'm not going to mention one of them on this. But
jumping down the stairs.
Yeah. But when I was in Boy Scouts, and I'm an Eagle Scout, what?
Like that means anything anymore.
No, whatever. But anyway, I was camping once, and we had hiked back, we backpacked into these woods to this remote camping ground. There's no running water, nothing, no phones, nothing. And there's signs all over the place, bears in the area, don't keep food in your tent. So we had bear bags keeping the food off the ground and all this stuff. And they're do not keep any food, no food wrappers, nothing in your tent because there's bears and whatever. Well, I was a fat kid and stupid at the same time, so I ate in my tent.
What's different?
Yeah, I had some like beef jerky and candy bars or whatever, and just right before bed I ate them, and then I just threw the wrappers on the ground inside my tent. Well, I fell asleep, and I woke up to a bear walking around the campsite in the middle of the night, just like walking around, sniffing around. You just hear the like leaves rustling and stuff, and I was so freaking terrified. I sat up, and I had a whistle, and I put it in my mouth, and I was just like, as soon as the bear rips into my tent, I'm going to blow the whistle and maybe it'll scare it away. And I sat there just in sheer terror for so long. And then I hear a zipper of another tent open, and then my dad pops out. He's like, "Get out of here!" And my dad, when we went camping and we saw a bear, my dad was always the one that chased it off. He'd make noise and chase it off. But my dad came out and, "Rah, get out of here!" And banged on some pots and pans or something and chased it out. But I was so freaking scared.
I just got 2 words for that. Incredible. Okay, 3 words. Absolutely incredible.
Yes. So.
I still need to make that t-shirt.
Anything else from you?
Yeah, I want one of those t-shirts.
I know, totally.
So that'll do it for this episode. I wanted to thank Jeff for being a part of it. Also, Paul has been on like 3 episodes now, so thank you for that as well.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This was awesome.
Total side note, anyone that lives in California near me, if you want to be on Andy's podcast and talk to him, my house is totally available. We can set up here. We can Skype with him. He lives in Nebraska. And we can do a show from here remotely.
Yeah, that'd be awesome to have some other people, other haunt monsters, because I know there's a million stories out there and a million crazy people that work there and have some fun stuff. So
everything. Please,
I would love to have other guests on here, and even people from other places, Queen Mary, or I don't care if you live or if you work at a haunt in New York.
Hey, what if you're a guest? I'd love to hear from guests too.
True, yeah,
that'd be great.
If you're like a super haunt fan or something like that, hit us up. But you can hit me up. You can email me at scaryvarner@gmail.com, or you can look me up on Instagram. Send me a message at scaryvarner, VARNER. My blog is lifeofascareactor.blogspot.com. Jeff's production company is at Final Stop Pictures. Paul's Instagram is @_Paulagram, PAULAGRAM.
Correct.
Don't forget the underscore. That's about it. Thank you for listening, everybody. Till next time, we'll see you later.
Now, Andy, did you hear about this one? Tell me, are you lost at the pond? Andy, are you goofing on hell? Hey, baby, are we losing touch? If you believe